Hi, I'm Mo, and I finally put on deodorant after 3 days.
And I'm TJ, and this podcast is proof that I did indeed peak in high school.
And this is...
It's still new to us, damn it!
Welcome to It's Still New to Us, Dammit. I am Mo, this is TJ, we just said before, and we are two slobs trying to watch every movie ever made to prove people were important.
And get out of our parents' houses.
Yes, well you already did that, I'm still stuck.
Get out of my roommate's house.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's true. Alright TJ, what's our film for today?
Today we had The Adventures of Baron Munchausen.
Ooh.
Yeah, this one was directed and written by the great Terry Gilliam.
Good.
We looked at his movie The Fisher King last week.
Which was not written by him.
No, it wasn't. And I get the sense that the two movies are not in the same cinematic universe.
Yes.
See, The Fisher King was a very grounded, serious movie that dealt with real life, personal struggles, psychological struggles. This one's very fantastical. Very different.
Definitely.
Very, very different.
Yeah. Okay, so this was released in 1988, released in 1989 in America, starring John Neville, who is mostly known for his theater work in Romeo and Juliet and Richard II. But also, he was in an episode of Star Trek Next Generation where he plays Sir Isaac Newton, I believe season 6, episode 23.
Sounds
Descent,
right.
I believe it was called.
Yes.
Yes. Eric Idle, Monty Python, Dudley Do-Right, Sarah Polly, Go, which is a really good movie from 1999. Go check that out. And Splice, movie 2009, which you probably shouldn't check out. Just forget about that one. Oliver Reed, turns out it was actually a very famous actor from England, was in Gladiator, his very last film before he died. And Two of a Kind, the second John Travolta, Olivia Newton-John vehicle.
Oh, how was that?
It was terrible. I think they did 3 or 2. I hope they just did 2, because the third one would have murdered everyone. Uma Thurman, which was her first film, technically, but since this film had so many problems, her second and third film came out before this. Before this, yeah. Pulp Fiction and Batman and Robin. Jonathan Pryce, Brazil, who I believe he's the lead of that, so that's the connection there. And Tomorrow Never Dies. And Valentina Cortez from Day for Night. And Le Iguana de la Laguna de Foucault, which is the iguana with the tongue of fire.
Okay.
Yeah, Italian giallo film, so that's fun.
Sounds intense.
All right, the budget of this film was $46.63 million, which we'll get to later about the budget. And the box office was, unfortunately, $8.1 million.
Yeah, I feel like this one was kind of destined to fail. Especially, you said it released in 1989 in the U.S.
Yeah.
I mean, there were some big heavy hitters in theaters that year.
Batman
and Die Hard, License to Kill.
Yeah. Okay, so I actually have the top 10 films of that year. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go over. Okay, so number 1 was Batman, of course, because that was a huge media hype machine.
A John Peters vehicle.
Number 2 is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Oh, also a big one.
Yeah, number 3 was Lethal Weapon 2.
Okay.
Number 4 was Rain Man.
Okay.
5 was Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. 6 was Look Who's Talking. Look Who's Talking made a lot of money. I think $325 million over that round. Ghostbusters 2 was 7th. Dead Poet Society was 8. Okay. Parenthood was 9. And then Back to the Future Part 2 was 10th.
That's a pretty solid... Oh, my God. When Back to the Future... The sequel to Back to the Future is number 10. You know you've got a pretty eventful year in films.
So this film itself was 100th out of 200 films. So that's how much. But we'll might as well get into it now, why it may have not succeeded. So it turns out, in the last episode, we talked about Terry Gilliam, the artist. We talked about how he directs. He... definitely takes from the Baroque era, which we definitely see in this film. Everything's fantastic, very huge, make you think they are. Which is basically this whole film. It's basically just a whole barrage of that. Mm-hmm. Alright, so unfortunately the people in Columbia did not like Terry Gilliam at all. Okay, so he before he did this film, he did Brazil, which also was not a hit. Only made $9 million off a $15 million budget. But he had some problems. They kicked the Columbia president out, who was with Terry Gilliam when he was making this movie. And the people who replaced him did not want anything to do with Terry Gilliam, because mostly they heard what they did, and they're like, this guy's gone, we're going to scrap all of his projects, and we're going to focus on our stuff, because that's what usually happens. Mm-hmm. So they only released it to 100, and there was only 117 released. Films of film release.
Yeah, reels of film.
Of, the whole country. And usually, films that are from Columbia and these big big studios release like 1,000 rolls of film for each like movie theater and stuff. This one only had 117. Usually, even the director Terry Gilliam said like usually independent films get 400. So they got a very low number of people actually seeing this film.
Yeah, it sounds like they set themselves up to fail, and I don't know what kind of point Columbia, the new execs, were trying to prove, especially considering that even though Brazil wasn't the big hit that they might have wanted it to be, they allowed for Gilliam to spend more of their money this time around.
Yeah. Okay. So I think they were process of making this movie while the head of Columbia was replaced. So they're already in it. So like they can't do anything of it. So it's like, okay, fine, we'll still do these projects, but we're just gonna forget them. Okay. We're not gonna promote them. We're not gonna do anything. Like they're gone. Like the guy's gone. So we're gonna do our own thing, which happens with a lot of corporate things. Like you just forget what the former regime did and you start new stuff. So that's what they did.
Sure.
So basically, this like said, no, Terry Gilliam, no, what, we don't care. But that's not the only problem I have with this film. This film had a lot of issues. The budget was one of them because it cost a lot of money. It cost $46 million, which
that's insane.
That's insane
Yeah.
for those even back then. That was a whole lot more than now. I mean, if you made a movie for $40 million today, people would think that's just like a mid movie, like a small mid-tier movie. But back then, it was huge. Basically, Terry Gilliam's one of those actors where he wants to do his image, and if he doesn't do it, he's not going to do it. Tell from these interviews. Mostly, a lot of people had problems on this film. Eric Idle hated it, which is weird because Eric Idle knows Terry Gilliam for years, so he probably knows what happens. But he was like, I'll do it. So
well, does he hate the movie or just he hated the making?
He hated the making of it. Definitely. Let's see if I can find the quote. So Eric Idle called the production a to the hill horrible experience, and even remembering it as a bit of a nightmare. So he also said the film, up until Munchausen, I've always been very smart about Terry Gilliam films. You don't ever be in them. You go and see them, and by all means, but to be in them, fucking in madness.
Wow, Python on Python Prime.
Yeah, exactly. Because this film, so it was very hard to shoot. They shot it in, I believe, Spain or Rome. They had problems because of the heat and a lot of other things. The film was expensive. It took a long time for the sets to be made, so they had to wait for the guy to make the sets. So, yeah, that happened. So, like, in the moon scene, where they go visit the Moon King, there was a whole other set built for that. But, unfortunately, they didn't have enough money. So Terry Gilliam just took the background sets and, like, the drawings he made, and that's what he just used.
Whatever he did worked out perfectly. And we'll get into why the budget is as high as it is and really what the movie's strengths are. Yeah. But first, I'd like to do a quick synopsis.
Okay, yeah, we'll do that.
If I may?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, basically, we have the Adventures of Baron Munchausen. War between the Ottomans and the Europeans rage on during the so-called Age of Reason. On this particular Wednesday, during a stage production of The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, the real Baron derails the show to straighten out the story's alleged inaccuracies. It turns out that the Baron and his servants, all of whom possess a unique superhuman ability, are responsible for the ongoing conflict. During one of their previous adventures, the Baron swindled the Ottoman's Grand Turk out of his entire fortune, and the Grand Turk, furious, declared war on Europe for some reason. When the theater comes under cannon fire, the Baron uses his fantastical abilities to ward off the attackers for the time being. Vowing to put an end to the fighting, the Baron sets off to reunite with his servants, a perilous task that takes him to the moon, the inside of an active volcano, and the belly of a sea monster. It also makes him an enemy of the crooked politician Horatio Jackson, who is secretly conspiring with the Grand Turk to prolong the war for personal gain. Joining the Baron on his quest is the young Sally Salt, who takes a liking to the old man, despite his constant contempt for her. Along the way, the Baron is trapped by the King of the Moon, seduced by the goddess Venus, and stalked by the Angel of Death. And despite his repeated attempts to abandon his quest, Sally makes sure to keep him on task. Ultimately, he's successful in finding his former servants, and they return to Europe to help end the fighting once and for all. In the end, some fantastical hilarity ensues.
Thank you.
Of course. Yeah. Now, I would go ahead and say that this movie, while there is a plot, the plot kind of it's kind of second fiddle. Yeah. And I think that's almost fitting because, and I didn't even know this until we saw it, these are based on an actual fairy tale.
Yeah, I didn't know that until I looked it up. I know Baron Munchausen was a character created by a man named, it was loosely based off a man named, I'm going to try to pronounce this, Holoneus Carl Frederick Theo von Munchausen. Sorry if I butchered that.
That's a name.
Compiled by Rudolf Erich Raspe. It's a R-A-S-P-E. Alright. So he basically wrote those.
Sure.
So that's where it's from. Also, there's many other films involving Baron Munchausen. Baron Munchausen's Dream in 1911 by George Méliès, who I believe is a very famous French director, I believe. Munchausen, 1943, Joseph von Balki, with a script by Eric Kastner. Sorry if I'm pronouncing these names wrong. They're very hard to pronounce. The Father's Baron Munchausen, 1961, Carl Zeman. And The Very Same Munchausen, 1979, directed by Mark Zakov, who depicted Munchausen as a tragic character struggling against the conformity and hypocrisy of the world around him.
Okay.
So this has been done before, but it's not as the scope as a major Hollywood studio has done.
Mm-hmm. Okay, spent big bucks.
To do this. So let's get into the film. This is, I think, what films should feel like. This is it. This is what I feel like all films should feel like every time you go in. I just feel a sense of adventure and a sense of excitement, a sense of wonder every time. And he did it. Even though it caused so many problems and he had so many setbacks, Terry Gilliam did it. He made an amazing movie that I can't even put into words how great it is.
The set pieces and special effects are A+, and they're all practical.
Yeah.
I mean, they all look great, from the Angel of Death to just the moon setting.
Yeah.
And the inside of the volcano. The inside of the friggin' sea monster looked incredible. Yeah. And it's all so imaginative, and it's so like Terry Gilliam, because he was always the artsy one of the Pythons, right? He did all the art for them. I say this story takes second fiddle position because it's such a visual treat. Yeah. And the funny thing is, watching the beginning when they're doing the stage production of the Baron Munchausen adventures, I thought that was creative enough. I thought that was incredible.
I thought that was going to be the whole movie. It's basically just him explaining the adventures, and they're going to play them out.
I would have honestly been okay
but then
with
it stopped, and it was like, oh no, we're actually going to go on an adventure. And Baron Munchausen is going to try to save the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, I was so impressed by the stage production's special effects and their creativity. But then you see what else this movie has in store for you. And honestly, us talking about it's not going to do it justice.
Yeah.
This really is a movie that I think was destined to fail. I don't know who the target demographic for this movie is, even at the time that it came out.
Yeah.
But I wish more people would see this type of movie.
Okay, so let's get to that now. Okay, so this film was released March 1989 in the U.S. What else was released in March? The two top movies in March were Lean on Me, the Morgan Freeman vehicle about inner city youths, and the Prince was taking over inner city youth school and trying to make it better, and Fletch Lives, the sequel to Fletch, starring Chevy Chase. Now, I think this film could have beat those movies, but once again, you only released 117 of them to the public.
True.
That's going to be a problem.
That's true.
Yeah, so I definitely see what Terry Gilliam is saying. Because if you don't release a lot, you're not going to see a lot of people.
He got screwed, and it sounds like Columbia cut their nose off to spite their face. I mean, I know it's a new regime, but why not try and make some money off of what the last regime spent a boatload on? But I don't know. I don't know how that business really works.
Yeah.
But I do find that fascinating.
Yeah.
And maybe it could have been a hit. But this is almost one of those movies where, a kid could enjoy it. Essentially, the whole family could enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I am so cynical about what the general public likes. And I feel like the general public doesn't like to think and imagine as much as this movie asks them to.
We don't really know what the general public likes. I mean, technically speaking, the general public can like anything at any moment. Like, one minute they could like something like, I don't know, snow globes. And the next minute they could hate snow globes. And love headphones. I don't know, just like random stuff. So we don't know what the general public... We just got to give what the general public see it and see if the general public wants it.
And maybe I'm not giving them enough respect. So prove me wrong, general public. Prove me wrong.
Make Columbia Studios put this back in the theaters and see if they can do it.
Yeah, we'll see another Fast and the Furious before we see that.
Yeah.
But, again, this movie had all sorts of surprises, from seeing Sting in a cameo role, a hilarious cameo role as a soldier who showed great bravery on the battlefield, and crooked politician Horatio Jackson sentenced him to die because he doesn't want him to set false standards. Or what was
set false standards for other soldiers.
It was great.
Yeah.
And then the Moon King, played by
Robin Williams, or by his stage name, which was Ray D. Tuto, which means King of Everything, which he portrays in The King of the Moon, which was amazing. Also, Robin Williams did not appear credited in this film, so that's why they were able to afford him. because the budget was so high because they didn't want to. So they're like, okay, I'll just do it for free.
Had he worked with Terry Gilliam before this?
I don't think so. I think he admired him, because Robin Williams is like also very fantastic and very outrageous. So he probably admired Terry Gilliam. Let's see, Terry Gilliam, before this one, he did Brazil with Robert De Niro and all that stuff. Jabberwocky, which I haven't seen. Time Bandits. And then his first film, I forget what his first, I think it was Monty Python film. I don't remember. But yeah, so I don't think he worked with Robin Williams before, but I guess definitely Robin Williams knows who Terry Gilliam is. But they're probably good friends also. So
sure, doesn't hurt.
Definitely, yeah.
And his presence was just marvelous.
Yeah.
He plays the King of the Moon, and him and his wife, they're like these celestial beings where their heads can detach from their bodies and they become omnipresent or what's the word? Omniscient.
Yeah.
All-knowing.
The head wants knowledge and power.
It's perfect.
While the body just wants sex.
The body runs around being all horny. And that was a fun dichotomy.
Yeah.
And again, just talking about it here doesn't do it justice. Mm-hmm. Go watch the damn movie, people.
True. Yeah, okay, so the acting was great. Everybody played the role great.
What did you think of the kid actress?
The kid actress did great. She does not really like it. Like, she has very bad memories from this movie.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
She was put in a lot of danger during this filming. Like, like the fight scene at the very end, explosions, they really didn't help her that much. She put cotton in her ears because the explosions were so loud. So, like, imagine it being a little kid and the director doesn't really care. He's just like, go, go! And so...
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
I thought she was great for a child actor.
She did great for a child actor. Period. All these actors played this wonderfully. They played it as a fantasy, as whimsical and as weird as possible. Yeah. That's what this film is supposed to be. It's Adventures of Baron Munchausen, the eccentric man who does insane things with his insane crew members. Mm-hmm. The man who's strong, the fastest man in the world, the greatest hero in the world who can blow away buildings, and the greatest shot in the world who can see anything.
Yeah, I like that too. All of his servants were superhuman in one way, and as you mentioned, we have Berthold, played by Eric Idle. He's the world's fastest runner. Adolphus, played by Charles McCown. He's a sniper with super vision. Albrecht, played by Winston Dennis, super strength. And Gustavus, played by Jack Purvis. He has super hearing and a lung power. He can blow armies over.
Yeah.
And they
Lungs
are fun
to
watch.
Yeah,
Lungs
definitely.
of Steel, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so mostly Terry Gilliam films deal with something like man versus nature, or like man versus society and stuff like that, which kind of goes on here, because Terry Gilliam's Baron Munchausen is trying to defeat the society that's there, because the government doesn't really care. They just don't care if a war's going on.
They're crooked. They're profiting from the war.
Profiting. Yeah. They don't care about the people. Like, when they sacrifice things, like, you're giving two good examples. So you gotta keep this going. Yeah, and also it's just like, I guess, age, man versus age, because Baron Munchausen is now older, and it's basically just trying to prove that even if you're old, you can still do things. Like, you can still be the fantastic man you are.
And that is a huge theme. Now, you had mentioned that between Time Bandits, Brazil, and this movie, it's a trilogy that's shown through, respectively, the eyes of a child, a middle-aged man, and then an elderly man, correct?
Yeah.
So this is the one through the eyes of the elderly man.
Yeah.
What I did find surprising and funny about this movie is that the Baron's a dick. He's a selfish person.
Yes.
He repeatedly he gets seduced by Venus, right, and wants to just drop the whole task. He doesn't even care about saving he only agrees to save the town because the young women are throwing themselves all over him to do something. Mm-hmm. He repeatedly, concedes to just give up on that task and just, live inside the belly of a beast, a sea monster, or stay with Venus and she constantly, Sally, who idolizes him at first, quickly realizes this guy doesn't give a damn about me. He doesn't really, he's kind of selfish, but I have to keep him on task. And to his credit, he does eventually, lead the battle to an end. But
yeah, maybe that's also like saying like kids don't meet your heroes. Like, they could actually be dicks.
Maybe actually
that can be a little thing like that.
Maybe.
Yeah.
What'd you think of the Angel of Death flying around?
I think that was great. I think like saying like death is always coming for you. You don't know like whether you're old or young. It's just always going to be around you. So you just gotta hope it doesn't come for you.
Plus, a real caveman take. It looked awesome.
Yeah.
I love Terry Gilliam monster effects.
Yes.
Even in Monty Python, I don't know if he was in charge of them ever, but even with the Red Knight with Fisher King and the Angel of Death in this, they remind me of straight out of The Meaning of Life or something.
Yeah.
I just love, they have like a home movie, like Halloween costume vibe or something. They're better than a homemade Halloween costume.
Yeah.
But you can just tell that it's not as, super polished like we get everything today. And it is refreshing.
All right, so what do you think of the end of this movie? Because I think I kind of get it. Okay, so Baron Munchausen is killed by
Horatio.
Jackson. And so the Angel of Death finally gets him. Mm-hmm. Then it turns out like it was just part of the act, mm-hmm. and then it was just like, oh, it actually did happen. He did defeat the army, and they're just gone. So are they saying that this was a whole story and it just happened, or was it?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
I think that's the point. I think that's the point. It's all about. It's not in this case. It's about the journey, not the destination. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
it really is about the plot. Is secondary, like I've said. I agree. The ending did confuse me too, but then I realized I don't think I'm supposed to put too much thought in that.
Yeah,
I think that he's a fairy tale. The story's going to vary. The story is going to take on different forms, and it's going to have different endings, some happy, some sad. Why end this one on a sad note? It was all a play. We joked about that when we watched it, instead of the it's all a dream trope. It was all a play. Yeah. So, I have no idea how to answer that.
I think you got it right, because I'm reading the synopsis right here on Wikipedia. It says, okay, so this is the final lines of
we do all our research on Wikipedia, by the way.
Yeah, we do, yes.
Great resource.
Which we should be in public school soon. Okay, so it's an emotional public funeral takes place, but the Dammit reveals merely the final scene of yet another story the Baron is telling to the same theaters goers in the city. The Baron calls foregoing, quote, only one of the many occasions on which I met my death, end quote, and to close his tales by saying, quote, everyone had a talent for it, lived happily ever after, end quote. So basically you're saying it's right. It's like each story has a different ending, and this one was a sad ending, but then you replace it with a happy ending. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So
that's how I took it to be anyway.
Yeah, well, that's
I'm glad Wikipedia agrees.
Yes, thank you, Wikipedia. So Terry Gilliam is mostly a fan of fairy tales, of the Knight's Tale, of the Adventurer Tale, of, I don't know what time band it's going to be of, but it's going to be definitely a tale. Brothers Grimm. He did make the Brothers Grimm, but... So maybe that's going to be it. So he's very, once again, that's his art style. He's very, from the book area, very fantastical, give you a sense of awe, which this film does, which I think some films, all films should. This Adventures of Awe was adventure and thrilling and wondrous. Yeah. But maybe a different drama is not going to have that type of awe. It's going to have sadness and depression and melancholia. But that's what films should be. They should make you feel something. Mm-hmm. I think that's why people, maybe mock cinema now, of Marvel movies and stuff like that, even though they do give you a sense of awe and wonder. When I watched the new Spider-Man movie, that gave me a sense of awe and wonder. When I watched the animated Spider-Man movie, which I think is the best one, that gave me a hell of a sense of awe and wonder. It gave me emotions I haven't felt in a while. It's amazing what they did and what they can do.
And really, that's what a fairy tale is.
Yeah.
If you think about it, fairy tales are kind of the equivalent of movies now. Back then, they didn't have obviously the types of entertainment that we do now.
Yeah.
So I think that this movie does work perfectly as a modern fairy tale, if that makes any sense.
Definitely.
It really is a story about accepting age and mortality and understanding that even as you grow older, you're not worthless.
Yeah.
You find other ways to make life adventurous.
Yeah, even Albright's blind in one eye, he still can get that shot when he needs to.
Right. All these characters had given up until the Baron and Sally convinced them to join them.
Yeah.
Berthold was held in that prison, like you said. Albrecht had just resigned to a life of servitude for Vulcan and Venus.
Yeah.
And then the other two were just down to play cards in the belly of a sea beast.
Yeah.
And then it takes a youth who's passionate to reinvigorate passion in them.
Yeah.
And it really is... It is a solid plot for a fairy tale type movie, but again, our little podcast cannot do the visuals justice. Yeah. They held up so well. Wouldn't you say this is one of the more beautiful looking movies I've ever seen?
Definitely it is. Definitely. And that's insane because the budget, once again, let's get into the budget a little bit. It was so huge, but also it cost so much that they couldn't do a lot with it. So on the first day of shooting, they only got 17 seconds of film done, which is very odd, and it's usually not how it happens. The 10th day, they got 17 minutes of film. Like, the whole film, they only shot 17 minutes in 10 days, which I guess is not normal. Let's see. Once again, they had to wait for the production designer to make all the costumes and sets for it, so that took a while. It was already $2 million over budget before a single film was shot of this movie. So the sets of the moon, I think we got into this a little bit in the beginning. They were painted. There was supposed to be a whole nother set for that. And it was made. But unfortunately, they ran out of money. So they had to make drawings of it, make just like background drawings, and it's used those. Use 2D back, so that's why it's 2D background drawings, which works for this film also.
It does.
Yes,
it does. It actually lends to the fantastical setting of the moon. They literally hot air balloon to the moon.
Yes,
and it looks awesome.
A Moon City set was to have been built at Pinewood. However, since there was no money left to do this, Terry Gilliam took the sketches of the designs and stuck them to a board. The 2D buildings were then moved forwards and backwards and left to right. Results was bizarre and effective. Yeah, so basically it worked. So they want, because Terry Gilliam is a very eccentric man who wants to do things his way. Like Fellini. Unfortunately, we don't know that much about the director Fellini. But people say he was like that. But Fellini would lie to people and just do what he wants. But Terry Gilliam would listen to people because he wants to get the film done. So he'll listen to people's idea. If it's better than his idea, he'll take it.
That is the sign of, obviously, a good empathetic director.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he did lie a lot, and it caused a lot of problems for people. Like, for instance, Sarah Polly, who talked about, was scared a lot because he was in the dangerous battle zone, and the director did not do much to help her. Eric Idle was told to save his head for this film, and Terry Gilliam said he would do it with him. He did not do it. He had also had problems, also the problems with everything else. An outbreak of horse fever happened in Spain, which meant all the horses that had been training for months in Rome were forbidden to travel to the Spanish location. So,
how great would it have been if they just had a bunch of people banging coconuts?
Yeah.
But yeah, any final thoughts on this one?
Yeah. Okay, so this movie is amazing. It has a lot of problems. It probably did get screwed by the studio, which caused a lot of problems. But this movie's amazing. Like, even with all the faults, the actors probably hated this working on this film. I understand why. A lot of directors are hard to work with, especially, so I was wondering, how do actors now deal with, very technical directors who are great directors but are very hard to work with. But besides all that, this movie is wonder. It's fantasy. It's everything you want in a movie. I would watch this movie 100 times and never get bored of it. I would show this to people every time. If you want a film of adventure and fun, you watch this movie. I love One Piece, and I believe somehow, Oda maybe saw this movie and was like, wow. And he maybe somehow took some inspiration from that. I don't know how, but I feel like he did. I would recommend this movie. This movie is amazing. 4 stars out of 4. And if I went back in time to 1989, I would watch this movie 7 times in a row to make sure.
See this on the big screen would have been awesome.
Definitely.
All right, cool. Well, it's a glowing reception. I'm with you. I thought it was excellent. I thought it was a movie that really took me by surprise. I say this every podcast, I had no idea what to expect. I figured some kind of visual treat given Terry Gilliam's track record, and good Lord was I not disappointed. This was some of the best art direction, costume design, set design I've ever seen in a movie, and I'm a big fan of practical effects, and this movie does it all very well. I liked the characters, the actors. I thought John Neville was great. I'd never seen him in anything else. I thought he did a great job of being, a hero and a jerk at the same time. Mm-hmm. The effects of Berthold running were really cool looking when he chases after the bullet at the end. Seeing Robin Williams was just a total surprise and a pleasant one at that. Mm-hmm. There's one of the funniest feet tickling jokes I've ever seen in my life with Robin Williams in this movie, and good Lord is it amazing. I too would give this 4 stars. I do think that this is something that I don't think this would appeal to all audiences. I don't. But if you have the ability to sit through an older movie and you enjoy practical effects, by all means, and you like fantasy, of course, by all means, check this movie out. Mm-hmm. I too would give this 4 stars.
Definitely. I actually have my notes. I've got about notes about this. Let's see. It takes place during the Boat era, of course. Staying executed for being too brave.
Mm-hmm.
There's Rubenesque women. You saw that Rubenesque women in there.
Yeah.
Let's see. Dicks, 4 hats. I don't know what that says. But basically, there were a lot of eunuchs in this. That's a lot of eunuchs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like the whole subject house, are definitely all eunuchs except for him.
Yeah, there were some great jokes that we didn't have time to get to. The Torturer's Apprentice.
The Torturer's. Oh, that was great.
Man. This is a fun little movie.
Yeah. Some quotes are like, he won't get far on hot air and fantasy. Basically saying society downplays fantasy, and fantasy is for ninnies and children.
Right.
Really, it does great things. Youth giving up hope and imagination. That logic is boring. Basically, that's one of the things the game loves. Like, logic is not just one thing. It could be many things. So that logic could be marshmallow bouncing to fix something, or it could be just you get a plug and you plug it in. So it could be many things. Of course, those are very basic examples. He'll take it to 1,000,000 because it's more imaginative. And flying by the seat of your pants. That's basically what this whole movie is. You just fly by the seat of your pants the whole time, and it'll come out the way you want it, because that's what you believe in.
Sure.
That's a great message.
It is a great message. Hopefully that works out for our listeners.
Yeah.
Well, excellent. Red Button's MVP?
Oh man, I didn't even think about this. There's so many good movies.
I know.
I think it has to go to Robin Williams again. It was
our
so
first
great.
Two-time Red
Button MVP. He is just so great. The way he acted in both the head and the body. Like,
yes.
The way when he was a beast, when the body was hilarious, it was just like, oh, come here, woman. Oh.
Yeah, it should be noted, he basically plays 2 characters.
Yeah.
And he's excellent as all.
Yeah, basically shows the id and the ego, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I believe the id is the mind, and the ego is the body.
Correct.
Yes.
The id is like the, isn't that like the deepest, darkest
I think
things?
so. I kind of forget.
The super ego. Whatever. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I love this very end when like, oh, my body is dead. I'm free.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I like.
But unfortunately, the head cannot live without the body sometimes. So he kind of is that.
Unfortunately not.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was such a bright spot in this movie.
Definitely. He's definitely Red Button's MVP. Even though all the actors were great in this.
Yeah, they were.
Definitely.
Well, alrighty. We are going to try out a new segment here. This is a test run. Basically, it's called Name That Movie, and it's very, very creative. So basically, I give Michael a little slip of paper. Do you have a pen? I should have asked before we started this.
I do
you can
not.
just type it in your notes.
Okay.
But I'm going to give you 10 clues here. Now, I'm going to read them all off, regardless.
Okay.
You lock in after a certain clue. I don't want you typing this whole time.
Okay.
You listen, and then once you think you know the name of the movie, I want you to tell me that you know it, lock in, type the movie, and then I'm going to read the rest of the clues so that our listeners can take guesses if they haven't figured it out. And if I see you type anything after you've locked in, you will be disqualified, and you will be beaten.
Got it.
All right? So, here we go. This is the first time. If this game sucks, I apologize. But without any further ado, clue number 1. And they will get progressively harder, or easier, so don't worry. This movie was released in the 1990s.
Okay.
You ready to lock in? All right. This movie was shot in 35 days on a budget of $6 million. Clue number 3. This movie has an 89% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes. Oh yeah, we're cryptic here. However, clue 4, in his review of the movie, Roger Ebert gave it 1.5 stars, complaining that it was confusing and uninteresting. Clue number 5. One of the movie's most iconic scenes, one toward the beginning of the film, was written to be completely serious in tone, but because the cast kept making one another laugh, it ended up being played comedically. Clue number 6. This movie has been spoofed in pop culture. A couple of examples are films like Scary Movie and Trainwreck, as well as a Ghostface Killah song called The Soul Controller. Clue number 7. Maybe I'll have to make these easier next time, because now I see
because they're kind of they're kind of vague. You said 1990s.
Yeah, I know.
89% Rotten Tomatoes.
I know. Sorry. I just really wanted to stump you because you always beat me in the trivia game that we had before this.
Okay.
All right, clue number 7. The Writers Guild of America ranked this movie's screenplay as 35th greatest of all time. Clue number 8. The film's shadowy antagonist's name roughly translates to King Talks Too Much in Turkish. King Talks Too Much. Yeah, I'm going to have to either add more clues or just make them less difficult. Because reading these out loud is not fair.
Yeah.
All right, but fuck you. Clue number 9. Michael Biehn of Terminator and The Abyss, I believe he was in, was initially asked to audition for one of the starring roles, but he turned down the offer because he found the script too confusing. The role ultimately went to Stephen Baldwin. Clue number 10. In 2017, star Gabriel Byrne claimed that for 2 days of shooting, production was shut down when co-star Kevin Spacey made sexual advances toward a younger actor. However, the film's director, Bryan Singer, has stated this is not true.
All right. Locked in?
Unless you need one more, I can make one up.
You got it. Okay.
Alrighty. So at least I took you to the wire on this one.
Yeah.
I will either add more clues, because I do like starting off super cryptic. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It prolongs the game.
I thought I was going to get, like, easy first and then hard, but then, like, the first ones were very vague.
Yeah, I know.
And then the second one got harder.
Yeah, I know. It was a little unfair.
Yeah.
But again, this was the trial run. My bonus clue, if you needed it, was going to be that this movie won both Academy Awards that it was nominated for, Best Actor and Best Screenplay. So you are obviously locked in. I'm going to take a look at your notes, and you are correct.
Hooray!
The movie was 1995's The Usual Suspects, which is one of my favorite movies, and I think a very, it's endured the test of time.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's...
Yeah, because I was thinking, like, what fucking movie stars Stephen Baldwin in the 90s that was that popular? I'm like, Biodome? I'm like, what was popular with fans but not critics?
The funny thing is, I changed so many of these clues because I was like, he's going to get it. He's going to get this shit. But then, I'd have to...
Like, you could have gave me, like, the year in the beginning and not to say 1990s.
See, that almost narrows it down too much. Because if I tell you 95 and then I mention that it's got one of the best screenplays of all time, I don't know. Maybe you put two and two together.
Well, I don't know how many films came... I thought it was, like, Forrest Gump for a second. But I was like, wait, complicated plot. Forrest Gump's not that complicated.
I might honestly just add more clues. I like starting really vague.
Okay.
If I were to add another 10 clues, I could get way specific.
So is this like 20 questions then?
Kinda.
Yeah.
I could end with Kevin Spacey won Best Actor for this.
So I did not know.
Yeah, it was his first Oscar.
Oh, well, that's...
Dude, I used to
great.
love...
That's sad.
Well, I didn't love Kevin Spacey, but I think he was one of the most talented actors.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking idiot.
Definitely.
All right,
well, this has been our show. We probably gave you the Rotten Tomato scores for this movie, but who fucking cares?
Fuck Rotten Tomatoes.
He has to stop the Rotten Tomato score, because obviously fuck them. I watched the movie this weekend. I saw Rotten Tomato score for it, and the whole time I was saying this movie's going to suck. It did suck, but maybe I could have thought higher of the movie, or at least could give my own thought if I didn't see the Rotten Tomato score, but I did. So, no Rotten Tomato scores, fuck that. Anyway, I'm Mo. I have now licked off the deodorant off my body, and it is now gone.
I'm TJ, and I am terrified at what I just saw him do.
Thank you. Okay, guys, see ya. Love ya.
Wait, we have to spin the wheel.
Oh, yeah, we got to spin the wheel. We always forget to spin the wheel. We just think we got it, but we don't. We don't know what we're doing, audience. Jesus.
No, we don't.
Our next movie is... Boogie Nights. We're going to see some Duke!
Excellent.
Okay, so goodbye, audience. Let's have... Oh, wait. You got to say goodbye, too, TJ. Is that just me?
Good night, folks.
Good night. Let's have Bob and Mitch and play us out. If you like our podcast, then please like, subscribe, follow, or whatever you have to do to listen. We're on Spotify, SoundCloud, and Anchor, and hopefully more podcast streaming services soon. Follow us on Twitter at _Dammit, and on our Facebook page, It's Still New to Us, because Facebook hates us. Thanks for listening.